Hello and welcome.
Well, I just got all the swearing that system there now.
Can we swear? Keeping that in.
What?
That's how it's going to start, but it's going to be beep beep beep. Today we're going to be talking about WWE, specifically in the year 2007. My name is Jeds.
I'm Grant.
He is Grant. Over there is producer Jack. You'll hear sniggering, I'm sure.
Says he might pop in with a few questions throughout this, so we'll see how it goes.
Pop in and out. This is just the tester. This is definitely the first take of this.
Aye.
And we're just going to wee casual chat about probably, I mean, it's my favourite year in wrestling, 2007.
Well, it's one of mine.
It is the year of 2007. What is your favourite 2007 memory, superstar? What sticks out? When you think of WWE in 2007, what comes to mind first and foremost?
John Cena versus Shawn Michaels on Raw that went for an hour.
That was after WrestleMania 23.
It was just before Backlash.
Oh, you're right. It was the Raw before
It was in the
Backlash.
UK. It was in London, I'm sure.
It was London, and I'm sure it was at the O2 Arena.
Probably.
I think it was at the O2 Arena. John Cena, Shawn Michaels. They went for an hour, but I mean, it was like there was an advert in the middle, was there no?
I don't know.
45 minutes of screen time or so.
An hour television time.
Is that your favourite 2007 match? John Cena, Shawn Michaels live at the O2. I'd actually completely.
I tell you, by the way, I don't think so, because they two had another match at Backlash, but Edge and Randy Orton were involved, and I really like that Fatal 4-Way, the way it ended.
I'm trying to remember how that ends.
Shawn Michaels Sweet Chin music, John Cena, and he fell on Tope.
Yep.
Randy Orton or Edge, I can't remember which one.
I'm pretty
But
sure
because
Randy Orton.
he was lying on top of him, the referee counted the 3, and after that, Shawn Michaels was kind of like, you only won because of me.
Because of me, type of thing. Mm-hmm.
Like, I had you beat.
That hour-long match, though, is the ending to that is
Flawless.
it's one of the best endings to a wrestling match I've ever seen. Cena gets him up for that adjustment.
Aye.
Michaels flips it, lands on his feet, Sweet Chin music.
And he actually
The
falls
fall, it's like, looking back on that, actually, that itself is a good finish to a match.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you take into account the Backlash 2007 ending, and it's Cena who gets Sweet Chin music and he falls on for the pin, it's like, it just makes that so much better.
Aye.
Oh, I've never actually thought about it like that before. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Big fan of that. Big fan of that.
Nah, it was good.
So John Cena and Shawn Michaels is what stands out for you.
Aye.
As see,
biggest rivalry of that year, I would say, between Batista, Undertaker, and Edge.
I was
Them
just
three
about to
just
say
trading the world title about on SmackDown.
Edge and Undertaker for me is like prime 2007 SmackDown, gone at it for the World Championship.
No, Batista.
The three of them, Batista and the Great Khali.
But we'll not talk about that. Kane is wheel at the bash, but
Huh?
Kane at the Great American Bash as well, but we'll
Kane won the world title in
no,
2007?
he competed for it.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought you were going to...
No.
I was about to say my knowledge isn't as good as I remember it being because I don't know.
No, he competed for it, and it was just awful.
Who did he face?
Batista and Khali when Khali was champion.
Damn.
It was awful.
That is a memory that is just like, it's just no there for me, and like SmackDown was my jam.
That right there was 15 minutes of my life that I will never get back.
So even though Cena and Michaels is like your stand-up match,
Aye.
that feud for the world title,
That was the best one.
is
That was the best one. Aye.
Overall though, who is the best superstar in your eyes
In that year,
in 2007? Who had the best year in 2007?
it's kind of a hard one because I mean you could say John Cena because he never technically lost the title. He had to get it taken off him because he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
But I would probably say Randy Orton for his rise.
He
started the year as a World Tag Team Champion and he ended it as WWE Champion.
Yep, that's right. He
So
went into it with Rated RKO.
I would probably say Randy Orton because I think he was one of the consistent performers of that year as well.
That was his first WWE title reign.
Second.
Was it second?
Aye, because he got beat at No Mercy at the start for Triple H for it.
No,
And
but
then
his
he won it
first
back
his
at the end
first
of the
WWE
night.
championship was in 2007. Though.
Aye.
That's what I'm saying.
His first world title was
2004 when he beat the man that ruined 2007. Funnily enough,
aye.
Mr.
Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit. That we've obviously mentioned about our best moments, but
That is a really really low moment for.
that is probably the lowest time in WWE just ever.
Aye.
I remember
It was really because he was meant to face CM Punk.
it was going to be Chris Benoit and CM Punk at Vengeance.
And he just no showed the pay-per-view.
And it was for the ECW title, and he never showed up, and they didn't know what to do. Now they could get a hold of him. Johnny Nitro at the time, as he was known, was put into the match.
He got put in. He won it.
And it was shortly renamed John Morrison.
Yep.
And WWE did that quite a lot, where they'll put a last minute replacement in. They've never had to do a replacement first run quite as severe as that before, like since then, thankfully. But usually, for some reason, they like to just throw a wee swerve and make the replacement win the match.
Yeah.
Because I seen that and I was like, well, CM Punk's winning this.
You would have thought so.
But
Because he was the one that was actually meant to be on it.
little did they know, they found out later that day that Chris Benoit died.
Was it later that day?
It was later.
I thought it was the next weekend.
It was
I thought it was on the Monday.
kind of late that day. Earlier was the Monday morning.
Well, aye.
They found out Chris Benoit died, and then they hosted the Chris Benoit appreciation show.
That
on
was
Raw.
that was the Monday.
This thing actually stopped the storyline about a week prior, is when Vince McMahon's limo blew up, and they were doing the whole.
Was that no when the truth actually came out about what had happened? And he says though that's when they just scrapped that storyline altogether.
Vince McMahon's limo blew up, and the storyline was going to be, it was like a who shot Mr. Burns type deal. It was like who killed Vince McMahon.
Hornswoggle.
Well, Paul London.
Little boogeyman for our editor there.
They had to scrap that storyline once they found out they were in the middle of the Chris Benoit appreciation show on Raw, or the tribute show, not the appreciation show. They were doing the tribute to Chris Benoit, and literally midway through filming it live on TV, they found out that Chris Benoit murdered his wife and his son and himself midway through the tribute show for that very same person. And that is honestly the most mental thing like ever. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. They're doing interviews with people like through the night. Like Chavo gets interviewed at the start and he's like greeting his eyes out. Jericho, I think. Jericho? No, Jericho wasn't
he
there.
wasn't there. He was later
I
on
think
the year.
CM Punk got interviewed as well, because obviously he was supposed to be his opponent at Night of Champions. And there's one that comes up with William Regal, but William Regal has just found out minutes before he's supposed to get interviewed.
What's actually happened?
He's actually found out what's happened. So he used to sit there live on TV and talk about like how good a performer Benoit was and stuff like that. But he pretty much just says, I didn't want to make a comment on Chris Benoit, but he was a tremendous performer, and that's what I'm going to say about it. And he just cuts it short because he's like, I'm not speaking about someone that does that.
I think he handled that really well.
I
think he done really well with that, because personally, I just wouldn't have went on.
They finished the show. They finished the tribute show, and to be honest, there wasn't really much they could do. Like, you're midway through, and then it's but then it was literally, I don't know if it was so much here, but it was plastered everywhere in American news, and it's all anybody was talking about. And then a week later, Vince McMahon opened up Raw, and was pretty much just like, this is the last time his name is going to be mentioned ever on WWE, and it stood the test of time.
So far
never been mentioned once, except Raw just there, where I don't know if I think I briefly mentioned this to you. WWE, I've showed you their big Thunderdome arena where they have like virtual fans and stuff like that, and like you can people can register and they can be in the audience, and someone put a picture of Chris Benoit up on the screen, and is now banned from being that. By the
To
way,
be fair though, that's
just
no,
gonna-
it's
just-
not. It's not really them referencing
Aye.
them, is it? It's just somebody who thought they were going to try and be
Aye.
funny and do
There's
that.
a few
Aye.
other things with that as well. People dressing up at inappropriate things on the
Aye.
show.
aye.
Yeah,
There was people with KKK symbolism and stuff
that's just
That's
that's
too far.
just absolutely
That
wrong.
is
I
just-
didn't even want to speak about that. That's
Aye.
just it's
like
wrong.
that. Fun fact, by the way, just on a slightly lighter note. Time of recording this, WWE Payback is this Sunday, and I am actually going to be in the Thunderdome.
You are.
I
You are.
registered, and yesterday was accepted to appear on the pay-per-view. So I will be on one of the screens on the pay-per-view, which is going to be weird as anything.
That's cool.
Don't know how that's going to go. Might try and get myself banned. Not going to do it in two. Might not do it in two mental.
Reference this podcast.
Hold up a sign.
Project X
Hold up
logo.
a sign. Aye.
Needed,
Get
by
the
way.
advertisement in. Anybody that's going to be in the Thunderdome, whenever this goes out, hold up
I
a
mean,
sign.
this podcast is coming out after
Aye,
Payback.
that's what I said after the.
Aye,
Is it?
aye,
Oh.
aye. Go back and watch. He said he makes an appearance. 4-man podcast and that. You'll love to see it. Bye. Have a wee look. I might be on the payback.
Aye.
Payback on the Thunderdome. I'll be.
But you need to watch it back if you want to see them. Like,
I wouldn't recommend it. It's gonna be
I
a shit show.
personally wouldn't watch it. Show.
Aye. Anyway, the Vengeance 2007 was kind of so that, and then the subsequent weeks, and then they basically just had to completely change the storyline for the. I had no idea where this Vince McMahon story was going to end up. It was probably going to be, but
It usually is.
they found a way to get Vince McMahon in some sort of storyline. I'll tell you that. The Vince McMahon illegitimate son storyline.
That was honestly
For weeks,
depends how you want to look at it. To be
they'd
honest,
been building up that Vince McMahon had an illegitimate child.
they announced it as he had a son.
They did. They say he has a child, and the plan was originally for it to be Mr. Kennedy.
Aye, but he done a bad thing.
He took the drugs and was suspended from the
Aye.
company.
So it was a.
So
It was
spent
Hornswoggle.
they spent weeks and weeks building up the illegitimate child for it to be revealed as Hornswoggle.
Aye, Hornswoggle.
It's funny because he's small.
It depends how you want to look at it. If this is a good thing or a bad thing.
It's
Personally, I absolutely myself when I seen Hornswoggle standing next to the Great Khali.
I hated it.
Myself when I
this
seen
is
that.
this is
No,
WWE's
literally, but I had a wee chuckle.
This is one of WWE's worst storylines.
Yeah.
Especially this. Other than Benoit, this is the lowest point in the 2007.
No, the 49 releases now.
Eh?
The 49 releases.
Well, 49 releases is quite bad, but
Aye.
there's a lot of people.
49 releases, but they got one Italian miracle out of it.
I actually forgot he was 2007.
Aye. Santino.
We'll talk about that. 2007. So they done Raw. They were doing. It's when they done.
It was in Italy.
They done their
it was a
tour.
Raw in Italy.
Aye, it was a weird tour to Europe. It was like the one time that Raw's ever been in Italy, and they were. But Umaga was Intercontinental Champion, feuding with Bobby Lashley at the time, kinda. It was more
Lashley.
It was more Bobby Lashley versus the McMahons, but Umaga and Bobby Lashley was going at it, and they done a storyline where they picked a fan out of the crowd. Vince McMahon handpicked him, and it ended up being Santino Marella, and he was, I mean, nobody knew who he was. I obviously knew a wee bit about wrestling back then. I knew who was on like the independents and stuff like that. No idea who he was. To me, when I was that age, I legitimately believed that he was just
a fan
in the crowd. They've just picked it, and then they bring him in. He's getting smashed. Bobby Lashley comes in, makes a save, spears Umaga when the referee's done, puts Santino on top of him. 1, 2, 3. Santino Marella.
Lashley pushes Santino down on him as well, so he can't get up.
Santino Marella on his very first night in the company becomes Intercontinental Champion.
I mean,
after being picked at the crowd.
See when you look at like now though, whenever they do something like that, you can what's coming. It's too predictable.
I feel like
Back then, I'm the same as you. I thought a guy was just coming out the crowd, and I thought he was going to get his ass kicked.
I feel like as well it's because like back then, and it probably is like nostalgia goggles, but it's like you were younger back then,
Mhm.
so it's like
You're,
the guy should
you're
be
more,
picked at
you're
the
more
crowd.
gullible.
Aye, it's like back then I would believe that a guy would just be picked at the crowd.
To
And
be
then-
fair, I still believe it now because it's something that Vince McMahon would do. But I mean, there you go.
Current day probably
Yeah.
pull someone out the Thunderdome and get the wee screens in the ring or something like
Oh,
that. But
I love him, but he's up.
Tino was then like a fan favourite. Everyone started to like him, and then I remember he defended his IC title against the Maga, retained it by DQ, and
Aye.
after that is when they turned him heel,
Mhm.
and I think that was genuinely the best move they could have made. They turned a character who was a fan favourite, everyone loved him because he was just like the underdog that was pulled at the crowd, and they turned him into a little purely because he's like, I beat Umaga, so I'm great and I'm the best. And then he gave him like maybe an Italian accent and made him more stereotypical
I love them.
that way.
I absolutely
And-
loved them.
He made the best out of what he was given. He wasn't on
100%.
TV that often.
But
that
whenever
long.
it was, he gave everybody
He
a
made
laugh.
the most out of everything, and at first he was a heel that people didn't like, but then he was too funny for people not to
Aye,
actually hate.
enjoy.
Aye, and I'll remember. I'm trying to remember who. So he was IC champ then.
Mhm.
Who did he lose the title to?
Who did he lose the title to?
In 2007.
Umaga.
But then he gets it back after that though. No.
No, to 2008, I think. I don't know. I don't think it was to 2008 he got it back. But like you say, his first defence, he won it via DQ.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Umaga won it back. And then I didn't really get my hand whipped for that. I'm not going to lie.
This is our best year in WWE.
Aye.
This is the most knowledgeable year.
Boom, boom, boom. Everybody say, well.
Well,
Oh no, you're right enough. Aye, you're right enough. Umaga loses it to Jeff Hardy. That's it. That's the one.
He kens it now.
Aye, I know it now.
I ken it now.
Jeff Hardy. Who's it then?
I reckon.
Exactly. Big fucking nose.
Does he win it back in a mixed tag?
Jeff Hardy loses it to Jericho, who loses it to Kofi Kingston,
Who loses
who
it to
loses
Santino?
Santino
In a mixed tag.
in a mixed tag team match at
Aye.
SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Who loses it to William Regal. So he's like, for me, one of my highlights of 2007.
Who, Santino or the IC
San-
title?
Eh?
Santino.
What do you mean? The
Sa-
IC title?
Aye, Santino.
Oh,
Aye.
Santino and the IC title.
Aye.
Aye. Good. I've always liked the IC title, to be honest.
Aye.
That was actually that belt design is what I always go for
Mhm.
the when I think of the IC title. The black strap with the
Aye.
gold with the kind of blue in the middle. That's to me is Prime Intercontinental Championship. I remember SummerSlam 2007.
You sure you don't need to check your phone?
I don't need to
You
check
sure,
my phone.
you sure it's not been edited?
SummerSlam.
You sure it's not been edited?
2007. SummerSlam.
You sure it's not been
2007.
edited?
SummerSlam.
You just said that bit out. Right, go again.
SummerSlam 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Umaga triple threat match.
Mhm.
Mr. Kennedy and Carlito. I don't know why. That for me is a match that always sticks out in my mind. Because I really liked Mr. Kennedy. I really liked Carlito and I liked Umaga. And for me that was like.
I know another one that sticks out in your mind as well, but it's for another time.
Hmm.
Finlay and Hornswoggle versus Boogeyman and Little Boogeyman.
Do you
But
wanna-
that's for another time.
in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
what wrestler would you be?
None of them, because they're all probably taking steroids.
I would be all of them because they're all
If-
taking steroids.
If I had to be any wrestler for 2007, I would probably. Let me think about this.
I'd be Randy Orton.
Is it
I'd like to be.
Boogeyman taking steroids?
Obviously.
Probably.
Seriously?
Have you seen the Boogeyman?
Aye, but
Bout.
so there was a massive steroid scandal about then.
There always is.
It's been like an ongoing issue for like the longest time, and they tried to cover it up. Like it was steroids, aye, but painkillers was like a bad thing
Mm-hmm.
back then, And painkillers is attributed to one of the main reasons to why Chris Benoit was so just because of the amount of painkillers and stuff that he was taking. And after the Chris Benoit thing, they looked at his brain and stuff like that, and they saw how damaged it was and stuff like that because of wrestling and painkillers and just everything like that. They kind of have since took a look at that and have made changes to their wellness policy and like the way that painkillers can be taken and the doses and stuff like that. And they've got like proper. It's kind of mad that a company that was around in the 80s, it took them until 2007 to have proper concussion. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for?
A policy to follow if somebody who got a concussion.
Aye, like a treatment of sorts.
Concussion treatment.
Aye, like
A medical expert and
concussion is one they've really thought of as being an important issue, and it really should have been, and like that's what mostly what. Okay. But that's not what we've been asked. What we've been asked is what wrestler we would be.
I would like to be Randy Orton.
Why?
Because he's Rice.
Mm.
He went for being in the tag team to mid card to main event to world title holder.
Thing is, I feel like that's when Randy Orton properly came out as Randy Orton.
Yeah.
He was world champion in 2004, youngest world heavyweight champion ever. Still to this day.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure. Youngest world champion still to this day.
Well done to him.
22, 23-year-old. I'm sure he was. Mental.
still got a chance
Aye. Never know.
this year.
Aye. I'm actually appearing at the pavilion Sunday. If you know.
You-
But I feel like when Randy Orton won it back then, he wasn't ready to be in the world title picture.
No, because he lost it straight after.
He did. He was in Evolution when that happened, and then
Mm.
he got it swiftly taken off him because he was also a bit of a backstage, and he had much stuff to learn, and he had to kind of mill himself out. But then 2007, as you say, is genuinely the rise of Randy Orton.
Right.
I can't disagree with you. I feel like that would be the wrestler I would want to be most. The Randy Orton moment I remember most is One Night Stand 2007.
Where he just murdered Rob Van Dam on
His
his last night.
stretcher match with Rob Van Dam is an absolute thing of beauty. That last RKO.
I will no forget him throughout that year before he got the WWE title, just punting everybody's heads off.
That was the year of the punt. That
Aye.
was the year that he actually debuted the punt. It's weird because the punt kind of went away for a while, and now it's back, and it's came into fruition.
Aye.
And it's like I feel like, in a way, it's like shades of 2007 Orton.
2009 Orton was the best though.
We're getting 2009 Orton was. See,
Oh, I loved him.
other than like Legacy, that's
He was a dirty, stinking heel. He shaved his head and he just called everybody stupid.
mainly Kofi Kingston.
Aye, let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. The stretcher match with Rob Van Dam though was for me like that was when he proper came into. That was just before he won his WWE title, wasn't it? Because his first
No,
WWE
after
championship was
after that he went into the main event.
after the stretcher match.
After the stretcher match, he went into the main event.
'Cause it was
he
such
kinda
a-
went into the main event
It wasn't
picture.
like a squash match, but it was in the end anyway. It ended up being a
Surprise-
dominating performance against Rob Van Dam.
surprising that Randy Orton won that as well. No, that Rob Van Dam won that. Sorry, about it being his last night in the company.
Aye, but I think you had to give Rob Van Dam that win to one, keep him in the good books for like future appearances, which he ended up making and stuff, and two, it gives Randy Orton a reason to
Yeah.
murder him basically.
Oh, he murdered him.
And that RKO, I'll never forget that RKO.
Oh,
where
it was
he
minging. He just felt on top of his
plants
head.
right on his neck. It's one of the. Everyone always says that Evan Bond's RKO is the best, but like for me, that is the most brutal RKO.
Oh, aye.
Like the Evan Bonnion wasn't so brutal, but this was
That
like,
was bad.
aye, that was neck snap. Ugh. Nah, not a fan, but I'm a fan at the same time. They're like watching it, but like it's just so good at the same time. And then shortly
Fair.
after that is when they decided to push him towards the WWE
Rightly so.
Championship. And I think it would have been a good bit of build. Get build up for,
Mhm.
as you said, I think it was probably the best thing for him though, to get pushed in the card a wee bit, go for the tag titles with Edge, and then just build his way up.
Jack, what's your favourite memory of the Boogeyman?
Favourite memory of Biggie Man?
Yeah.
No way out 2007 when him and Little Biggie Man had a match with Finlay and Little Big.
I got to say, I can't remember much of it because I'm not a wrestling fan, but I always remember watching one of the shows on the Sunday morning on replay.
Is it on Sky One?
It was.
Is it WWE Experience?
Sure, why not? And
Aye.
I will go with that.
I always remember the grand entrance with all the AV and stuff, and he comes in with his big clock, and I'm sitting there eating a sausage roll.
Mm-hmm.
Quite the thing, and I turn around and this fucking warm eating man. I'm like, but I'll never forget it. I always remember
Is,
walking out and eating the worms.
The thing is, it's like the Boogeyman was legitimate worms, like they were actual worms.
No,
You see them moving.
nah, I always thought it was fake.
They're no.
My dad always said they're fake. It's fine, Jack.
It's no. Oh, your dad's a liar. I had to break it to you.
Seriously, the real worms.
Yes. They didn't taste anything.
That
It's a
right,
worm.
that right there is the definition of being gullible when we were that age.
Aye.
That's psycho. That.
Aye.
It tastes like it. Jesus Christ.
They don't.
Did he say that didn't taste like it? You tried one?
Right.
Next video.
Right now.
Next video. He's going to eat a plate of worms and tell us how they
In a
taste.
future project, I will.
You can't tell me.
You're
what
actually disgusting if you're
I
even
can't say it
considering
tastes
that.
nice, but I mean, like, if he's fine with doing it, he's in character.
So if he's doing it, that means you can do it.
They're not. Like, are you sure they're real?
Yes.
I can't.
I'm gonna see.
That's a lot of worms.
Aye.
If they just got this runner cutting about in the back garden picking it once.
Maybe they've marinated them in barbecue sauce so he doesn't taste it.
Yes, he does. They are real worms.
Where are you reading that
And
from?
it was several websites.
Don't believe everything you read on the internet, kid.
Don't believe anything.
Well,
Aye.
it is legitimate.
Right, we'll
And it
take...
it was his choice
That is
to
fucking
use
vile.
real worms.
It's actually
How long
vile.
do they do it for? Eating the worms?
So
Every time he
the
came out.
Boogeyman debuted in 2005, and he's never changed character, and he was in WWE till about 2009, and he was
4 years of eating worms.
4 solid years eating worms pretty much every single night.
I regret
But like,
asking
he
you
done
that
it. He
question.
done it. Aye, he done it like. Fair play to him for being in the character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like hats off, but.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be me.
And then he's done it since then as well, because every now and again he'll come back for like an odd appearance. But the thing is as well, he liked working with people in the ring that were willing to also eat the worms. Because after the match, his thing would be like, I'm going to put my worms in your mouth. And he preferred working with people that did that.
No.
No.
No for me.
And Jamie
So-
did, obviously.
Oh, I can.
Well, I mean, I'm not being funny, but they're getting paid like a shit of money per year for performing.
I would eat a worm for money. Yeah.
No, but it's no a worm. He's shoving like 50 into his mouth at the same time. What I'm curious about,
I'd want danger money.
the reason I'm curious is to this, right? Where the fuck are you getting these worms?
Well, that's what Jack said. Jack reckons I've just got somebody out in a garden just picking them.
They've just got a supplier somewhere.
Aye.
The thing is, that's the thing about WWE. The amount of props and just weird stuff that they've had to use over the years. It really goes to show like the team must work hard backstage.
How much longer you want to make this run by? Because I'm needing this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, well,
Keep that in.
do you not think like animal activists and stuff would take offence to the worm eating?
Now,
Definitely, but back
now
then,
definitely, but then, yeah. The thing is, it's like, I mean, he's eating worms, right? But it's not exactly as if he's like, I'm taking a huge bite, swallowing it down. He's literally putting them in his mouth. Sometimes he's kind of like chewing and that, but
Honestly, make me bolt. Even just having them in my mouth. Like,
I don't know. Maybe it's a fetish for him. I don't know.
Maybe.
Aye. But the commitment that he must have had to that character is
To do that, aye. Fair play to him, like, but
what's this podcast
Aye.
gonna be?
But you think about it, it's not just that. Every night he's painting his face. That,
Aye,
that
that's-
must take a wee bit of time. Every single
Jack thought that was his real face.
Fuck crew.
time. No, but Bowie Man paints his own face.
Does it?
hmm
Why? They've got like thousands of makeup artists.
Back then,
Okay,
probably
but-
though.
So you're gonna eat worms then?
A future video.
Fantastic.
That's on film, that's happening.
I will do it. For the content.
A big banana worm pie.
Not just big stack of worms.
Straight in the mouth.
No! And I mean worms that like, we're not going out in the back garden
So what, you want
and
gummy
just
worms then?
like, and pulling out worms just like out the ground. That's minging. That gives me the bulk.
Oh, we'll pick them out, we'll wash them.
I'm talking about like,
You want us to order a pack of
Go to
5?
Pets at home and get worms for buns.
aye.
Oh, that's actually
You're
really sick.
Grotty, sir.
I'm gonna be sick.
Aye, but you've said
But,
you're
like,
going
it's
to do it,
not
so you
gonna-
need
it's-
to do it.
It's probably not as bad as people think it actually is what I'm trying to say.
Aye, but folk that go and watch Partick Thistle say that's not bad either.
This is a podcast that supports all football teams.
No, it doesn't.
How is it?
No, it
I
doesn't.
don't like football.
Aye, we do.
No, I don't.
When you get 2007 female,
Mm-hmm.
like, that is actually like, was portrayed in a decent light, who do you think of? Because there's only really two that I can think of. Melina and Mickey James.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the only two, I didn't like call them divas anymore, to be honest.
Because they're not.
Aye.
Do you think through the years they've shown more respect to women?
100%. 100%.
Aye, but the way they done it isn't the greatest.
No.
They took forever. It was like 2014, I'd say.
Oh, I wouldn't even say that. So I'd say
No.
about 2015, 16 or something, man.
I'll say 2014 because of NXT. I think that's when they started getting treated a bit
Aye,
better. And then
but main-
2015 it
main
kind of came to
roster.
like the way that they done it. They branded it as like the women's revolution, and they pulled up all these people for NXT. This is even about 2007 anyway. This is a
No,
general-
it's not. It's just a
this is
general chit chat
kind
now.
of
No, that's
wrestling podcast. The way that they portrayed it was like, look at us, we're like other sports, we're inclusive of females. Look at how sporty they are.
it's quite forced.
It's very like
Mhm.
we're good at like
It's
portraying females in a good light.
It's deserved for like the stuff they had to go through in
They-
the past and stuff like that, and they worked their asses off to get to that
they
point.
shouldn't have to say, look at how good athletes our females are. They should just let them go out
No, they
and
shouldn't even be. See,
wrestle.
for me personally, see when they talk about athletes and everything like that as well, they shouldn't even be saying look how good the female athletes are. They should just be saying look how good the athletes are.
Aye. And for the longest time, it's calmed down slightly now.
Aye.
But when that first kind of thing started in like 2015, they were proper like focus on it mainly on like the brand of it and being like, look how inclusive we are being
Aye,
our
they
females.
still aye.
Look at our females. This is the segment for the females today. Sports. But when it's like just let them go out there and wrestle and have storylines
It's
and
a
they'll
lot
be
better
amazing.
now. It's a lot better now because on a pay per view in like 2007 or that they'd get about 5 minutes. Now they've main evented big pay per views and everything like that, and they're getting at least
Definitely.
20-25 minutes just to go out
Charlotte-
and do what they can do.
The Four Horsewomen have definitely changed
Mm-hmm.
the game. It's,
I would, honestly, the 4 horsewomen, I would include Paige in it as well.
For me, it's Charlotte, Becky, Bailey, Sasha,
Aye.
and then you've got Paige and
Aye.
AJ Lee.
Aye.
Or the six.
Some folk would include the Bellas in it, but I wouldn't because they kind of
No,
pissed off before it all
The
started.
Bellas were kind of the face of like, look at our female athletes. Like, they were more kind of.
Look at our female athletes. They've got a telly show.
Aye, they were more kind of push for
Watch
for
the
their
telly
TV
show.
for their TV show.
Give us money. Watch the telly show.
Aye.
You got the
Total
talk
Divas,
show one. Not the talk show,
the reality show.
the reality.
Aye.
Aye, Total Divas.
Go and watch it. It's good.
It is actually really good, but I like crappy reality show TV.
Aye.
I love Kardashians,
So, if If you like the Keeping Up with the Kardashians, do you actually watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
Breaking
For
news,
real?
we're just about to sack somebody.
Hey, you're getting sacked.
Sack the owner, right?
I
That's our boss you're speaking to.
It's not my boss, he's not paying me a wage.
A guilty pleasure for Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
I used to, but not anymore.
All of it.
I got it up.
Couldn't they tell you like a single thing about any of the Kardashians?
One of them's named Kim.
One of them's Kim.
Can we just get off this?
One of them's.
This is
One
went
of
from
them's-
2007 to General to the Kardashians.
But they're portrayed in a much better light now
Aye.
than they were back in 2007. That's for sure. But I feel like even the matches between Melina and Mickey James, sometimes they go on for like 10 minutes.
See, the thing back then, right, in 2007 and that, not even just 2007, like before it and after it
Aye.
and stuff like that as
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
they didn't get a lot of time, but so it's kind of hard to try and tell a story in the time that they got given. But sometimes they did pull it off, and it was really, really well pulled off. And they two were the ones that I would say
There's-
9 times out of 10 pulled it off with the time they were given.
Aye, and later years as well, like Beth Phoenix.
Aye, and then
Was-
obviously towards the end of that year and that as well, you had Beth. Towards the end of that 2007, you had Beth Phoenix coming through. You had Candice Michelle. You had Maria.
Mm-hmm.
You had Ashley and all that. Melina and Mickey James and that were still there.
A lot, and the thing is, some of the names you mentioned that when they really say help towards that because they're more kind of
No, I'm just saying that's kind of who you had on.
there for the looks.
Aye,
A lot of the people in 2007, they're really
that's the one.
they
that
really tried to
I'd-
push the
majority of folk 2007 weren't taking them for ability,
aye, and then it's
which is a shame to say,
Aye,
but it's
it's-
true.
just mental though because
I'm happy to see what they've come to now.
you think like the years before that, I think like 2003 or 4 time, Lita and Trish Stratus were
Aye.
very, very early stages of what we've got now. They main evented Raw, and it's
Mhm.
the only time up until so that was like 2004 or something. They main
Something
evented
like
Raw.
that, something like that, man.
It took more than 10 years for that to
It was-
happen again,
It was mental.
which is fucking crazy because like literally after Lita and Trish left, that's when they proper shoved like the Divas search.
Aye.
That was literally just like let's dress them up in bikinis and they can play volleyball, and it's just no. Just when they fly these days, they
Definitely no.
they would get so much hate. That's ridiculous. But don't get me wrong, these days they've still got some really bad storylines in regards to females. Especially, I'll never forget. Actually, right, this is completely deviated for 2007 now.
I know.
2014. Do you remember the Bellas storyline? Where they were building up Brie versus Stephanie.
Oh,
They were doing Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon at SummerSlam, and Nikki Bella, who's Brie's twin sister, turned on her. And then the storyline on Raw after that, she said, "I wish you had died in the womb."
that honestly.
And just 2014, that kind of stuff was getting thrown about.
Just before the
Um,
revolution and that all started, man. Honestly.
Aye. And it's like, I mean, it doesn't bother me because I didn't really get easily offended, but
No,
the
I'm
snowflake
the same,
age
but
we're currently in.
Aye, it's bad. It's
They
really, really
shouldn't be
bad
doing
to
stuff
say.
like
No,
that.
no,
And it's
no,
just-
no.
It was done to promote a TV show
It's mental.
at the end of the day. And I feel like,
See, when you look back at some of the shit they got away with, by the way, it's actual mental.
not even just with the females.
Just, no, with everything. Just everything.
Aye. Especially the Attitude Era. Some of the stuff that I've seen from back then. I'm trying to think, there was another sketchy thing. That came to mind. Obviously, we touched on the Vince McMahon limo blowing up earlier on. Can I just say, actually, right, that you popped up there when I mentioned that earlier on.
The limo.
Aye.
I remember it.
Aye.
I remember it as a kid.
I will never forget. This is such a like a all over the place podcast, but I'm actually kind of alright with it.
I have a
The-
feeling I came where you're going with this.
What?
With the limo blowing up.
How?
Are you going to talk about Paul London?
No, I'm actually no.
Oh,
I'm actually no.
That's a shame.
I'm just gonna say I remember. I was in primary school at the time, obviously, and it was like primary 5 or 6 or something. That's when I was proper big into wrestling, and a lot of the people in my class were quite big into wrestling as well. And I'll never forget, I had an ICT period. I'll never forget going into WWE.com and like the full fucking class was buzzing. Everybody like, holy shit, Vince McMahon's the whole fucking blow up yesterday. Everyone was like, what the fuck's going on? Vince McMahon's died. We were all sitting googling, is Vince McMahon dead and stuff like that. And like even the teacher was like getting into it, and I don't know, that sticks out in my mind like so much as a weird memory. One of the theories that I saw is they were gonna make it that Mr. McMahon faked his own death. But I'm like, what do you gain for that?
Avoid paying tax.
Well, not in terms of storyline though. How does that further progress their product? I didn't mean as in.
Makes it dramatic.
It brings in more views because it's like, oh,
Everyone thinks he's dead.
everyone thinks he's dead now. It's like, oh, Vince McMahon's turned up next.
They were legitimately going to push it forward though, as like Vince McMahon has faked his own death, like everything real life. He was going to hide. He was going to just not be
We'd
there.
just not leave the house.
I mean, with that money, I would be staying in the house.
I'd be sounding off, sir. I'd just build myself a coat.
But
I'd build myself a house to do.
The thing of,
Like before it happened.
see the weeks,
Ring.
see the weeks building up to it. Vince McMahon was acting like really weird, like just in general.
Aye.
Like he was talking weird and like just acting weird around superstars. And the night I've seen the Raw, I've watched it since, where the limo blows up. He's just walking around and he's looking around as if it's the last time he's ever going to be there.
Aye, and everybody kind of looks worried for him except for Paul London. Paul London's just standing there with a massive smile on his face.
He's walking. This is literally as he's walking to the limo. For some reason, all the superstars are lined up and they're all looking at him like,
You alright, pal?
like mournful. Paul London is sitting there. Paul London got sacked for that, I'm pretty sure.
Aye.
Because they got told to look sad and stuff like that, so he went, alright, I'm just going to go off script and smile.
I got the hullet for that.
So he got sacked because of that. But I've spoken about this with folk before, but it was like a week or two before this was going to happen, and I was in the build up to Vengeance, and Vince McMahon was on SmackDown, and he was talking to Edge, and they were building up because it was going to be Batista versus Edge. It was the last chance World Heavyweight title match, and Vince McMahon was pretty much telling Edge, this is what's going to be happening. You're getting your World title shot, but if you lose, like you're done. But for some reason, Vince McMahon was putting on this really weird accent. Like he probably whispering to me. He was like, vengeance is mine. And then he started talking American. He's like, do or die. You do, you die. And it's the weirdest thing I'm going to show you later on, actually. It's the weirdest thing you will ever
Midlife
see.
crisis.
And Edge is there looking like he either, one, doesn't have a clue what he's going on. Two, like he's about to piss himself laughing. Because he's just like, why the f*** has he been
It would be
talking about that? And he's
hard.
acting like
It
weird.
would be hard.
Vince McMahon is like the weirdest guy on earth.
I hate him, but I love him at the same time. I think he's a.
You already know about this, so I'm gonna talk about it.
He's a.
I'll
Vince
say it to
McMahon
you.
is a. Kind of hate.
So
I love
WrestleMania that just passed this year, WrestleMania 36, they brought this American footballer in, Rob Gronkowski, right? And they brought him in for this bit, and he was going to do like a stage dive type thing, where he was going to fall back off this like stand into like a crowd of people. And on the day that they were going to be filming it, that Rob Gronkowski, it was like, I didn't think I can do this. And then Vince McMahon, 76-year-old, was
Without
like
even thinking, just climbed up and done it.
climbed up and jumped, literally climbed in the barrier, and within about 2 seconds he jumped off and looked up and was like, see? Fucking how hard was that?
Do you know what kind of, but makes it even better? See, after he had done that, he had his tie still in his shoulder, he hadn't fixed that. The
Aye.
tie was still in his shoulder, and he's just sitting there saying, what's the big deal?
He's
about it?
sitting
Just
there and he gets up, even fixing his tie, he's like, yeah. He's like, stop being a pig.
It's
70
so good.
This
man.
Rob Gronkowski boy, he's in his early 30s, he's 31-year-old.
Is it?
Vince McMahon's 76,
And he's just jumped off that.
diving off things, 10 foot tall. And it's just acting like it's absolutely nothing.
I love him.
And it's just like he's
Yeah, I say I love him, but he's a prick.
he's the love hate because he's ruined the product
It's like, don't
today.
be your hero type thing.
In a way, aye. For every bad Vince McMahon story you hear 2 good gins.
Aye.
And for every 2 good Vince McMahon stories you hear 3 bad gins. Like, that's how it goes. He's currently ruining the product, in my opinion.
He's holding it back.
It's oversaturated. He's holding it back. I didn't feel like he should be in charge anymore. He's out of touch. But then it's like, you hear stories like that where he jumps off balconies, and there's like videos of it and stuff.
There is going to be more stories like that would just you didn't care about them.
Oh, there's going to be 100 million things. Like, there's those rumours that
Well, the
It
Shawn
was-
Michaels zip wire entrance, he done that, no?
he did.
He done.
I remember reading in like 2016. In 2016, Luke Harper was meant to be getting a push with the Wyatt family, and his push got stopped, and they were basically like, "We're taking you off TV," because he sneezed in front of Mr. McMahon backstage. And apparently,
Petty stuff like that.
Vince McMahon believes that sneezing is for the weak.
So he's
and
never
was
sneezed,
like-
so but has he never sneezed in his life?
Apparently, it's some weird thing like the devil's inside him or something like that, or
If he sneezes, he like punches himself in the
he's
If he sneezes,
he
he's
gets
up
mad at himself if he sneezes. Like that is legitimate. Like he thinks sneezing is a sign of being weak.
That
And
is-
because one of his employees who was meant to be getting pushed as like a future top star, because he sneezed in front of him,
That's
he
weird.
was like right in the card.
That's
you're
really
weak.
weird.
How bizarre is that?
That's really,
That
really
is the most
weird.
bizarre hick I've ever heard.
Anyway, to round it up, it's 2007. Good year.
Aye, it's kind of
It's kind of just spiraled a wee bit. It was meant to be
Aye.
about 2007, but it.
that's the beauty of wrestling though.
You just talk.
In my opinion.
You can talk
You
about.
can
You can
talk
talk
about
about
one
a
thing 1
specific
minute.
thing, and then you're away in like 10 years down the line.
Because there was so much different stuff that has happened over the years, and because it's been running for so long.
It's kind of like comparing like what it was then
Mhm.
to now. Like blowing up the limo and that, I wouldn't get away with that now.
No. They wouldn't do death storylines and stuff
No.
like that now. Although
You'll try.
they've been kind of weird recently actually with Raw. We've got like a poisoning storyline. Someone got poisoned. Someone's drink got spiked. Montez Ford.
Well, the Frog Splash boy.
Aye.
I like him.
Montez Ford got his drink spiked a few weeks ago. Like, go and subscribe. No, but I mean, still been, in my opinion, this could have been better, but it's a first go round.
It's a
It's,
first goal. We'll get better as it goes.
Make sure you go and watch Moroccan Gold on the channel, and I've been Jeds.
Grant, peace.
Ciao. Can we swear?
That's Fanny's fart.